In this video, I hope to show how prominent game theory is in many real-world situations and how, with a better understanding of how these games work, any person could achieve a better outcome from the situation. So firstly, what is game theory? It's a strategic interaction between two or more players, in which these players need to implement or adjust their own actions so that they get the best outcome possible. In some situations, but not all, there are Nash equilibrium. This is where every player's action is a best response to the other player's action. Sometimes, despite there being a Nash equilibrium in a certain game, it won't be achieved. So therefore, getting players to realign their decision making so that they reach the Nash equilibrium would be ideal. Looking at a real-world problem which game theory would allow for a better understanding of how it should be approached, I feel that Brexit negotiations are as viable as any other. There are many topics of deliberation in these negotiations that could be resolved more effectively and more easily. However, being willing to compromise to achieve these better outcomes risks a player losing out considerably if the other player chooses a more aggressive approach in the game. Of course, if both players take an uncompromising stance, the resulting outcome is going to be the worst possible, as it is likely that the payoffs of both players will be far worse than they intended. Looking at this with regard to Brexit negotiations, the main areas to consider are Britain's payments to the EU for leaving, and then the Irish border that talks going on about currently. So since an agreement has finally been reached about the repayments the UK will pay to the EU to leave, but neither party wanted to concede to the other in the first round of these negotiations, deciding on the value itself was always going to be highly contentious. It was always going to be the case that compromise was going to be unlikely in this, since it would pave the way for how the remaining talks would go. Importantly, both sides would gain the most if the other party were to offer a compromise, and they were to remain harsh in their offers, since that would lead to their Nash equilibrium. This makes compromise even less likely, but for the purpose of these talks, either of these two Nash equilibria would actually do more damage than good in the context of progression for both parties, suggesting that if both were willing to compromise, it would result in the best outcome. Since the decisions made by both parties are made simultaneously and they cannot know the other party's decision until they propose their own actions, this does make compromise unlikely. If, however, the EU had made it clear they were willing to compromise, as well as the UK, it is likely that the UK would accept their terms and progressions could be made. So from this game, what do we learn? Sadly, it seems that in most of these types of games, we like to see a worse outcome than desired, as it's easier to not concede to another party than it is to reach compromise with them. However, this game suggests that most games would be made if a level of compromise was actually reached, meaning that these games could be far more effective with their output if players had a better understanding of the game itself.